Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this History Rewrite Thursday, and here's why. The great Heidi Henry is standing by, Heartland Mama, our voice from the boonies. She laughs when I say that. I got boonies from her, okay, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't come up with boonies. I always love to talk to Heidi. She is truly one of the most New Deal Democrats I've met, and just got so much respect for her running as a New Deal Democrat in Trump country. So we'll be talking about all the issues today. Inflation. Oh, I want to ask her what her thoughts about Bill Gates. That Bill Gates hearing yesterday at the Congress with Epstein, so revealing. Definitely, Donnie, we're going to talk about I love inflation, Donnie Trump. And can James Tellerico win? As my wife was walking out the door this morning, she goes, can James Tellerico win? And I go, you know what? Heidi's coming on. She knows of like the whole, the mental, mind games of independence and red people who are almost blue people. So we'll get her thoughts on that. But I got to start with this. This is completely out of nowhere. Typical me, or the things I see in the newspaper. So this is an article in the New York Times. I can give them a shout out. They put together a group of historians who specialize in the presidency in American history. And they're all pretty much neutral. It's like there's none that are like radical leftists, basically bread and butter, down the middle of the road historians. And they were analyzing the captions that Donnie Trump and his cohorts wrote and placed underneath the presidential portraits that are in the White House. Now, keep in mind, the White House is the people's house. It's owned by you, the people of the United States of America, pay for it with our tax dollars. It's been this way for hundreds and hundreds of years, going way, way back. It's not Donnie's house. Donnie leaves, and one way or another, he is going to leave, ladies and gentlemen. I hate to break that to you, MAGA people. He's not invincible. I know you treat him like he's a god, but he's not a god. And so this will be passed on to somebody else. So he's essentially a caretaker, if you will, of the White House. But he, of course, doesn't treat it like that. He treats everything like it's his own. And I'm not just talking about smashing the East Wing or building that horrific ballroom, which goes up in cost every year, or putting gold and gilding the damn thing. I'm talking about the plaques, the presidential plaques and the captions. And this is the one he has for Joe Biden. And it was in today's New York Times. This is on the White House wall. I'm just reading to you this plaque. Here we go. This is the caption. A dramatic reading. Here we go. Sleepy Joe Biden was by far the worst president in American history, taking office as a result of the most corrupt election ever seen in the United States. Biden oversaw a series of unprecedented disasters that brought our nation to the brink of destruction. His policies caused the highest inflation ever recorded. Just pause and think of the irony of that. His policy caused the highest inflation ever recorded, leading the U.S. dollar to lose more than 20% of its value in 4 years. His green new scam surrendered American energy dominance, and by abolishing the southern border, he abolished the southern border. I'm sorry, MAGA. Come on, man, this is your guy. He abolished the southern border. Biden let 21 people from all over the world pour into the United States, including from prisons, jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. His Afghanistan disaster was among the most humiliating events in American history, and resulted in the murder of 13 brave American service members, with many more gravely wounded. Seeing Biden's devastating weakness, Russia invaded Ukraine, and Hamas terrorists launched the heinous attacks on Israel. Nicknamed both Sleepy and I can't read anymore. Guys, come on, MAGA. You got to look in the mirror. You got to say, what have I? I'm going to put it to you. Look, right now in the state of Illinois, we'll just hear Heidi riff on this. Right now in the state of Illinois, JB's going to be running against DB, big fella, Darren Bailey, a rematch. And Darren is moving. He's attempting to move. No one's really paying attention to this election except for me and Dennis and our hardcore political junkie listeners like Heidi. And nobody's really paying attention to this, but this is a fact. He's moving. He's trying to creep away from Donnie as best he can because he knows it's pierced his brain. Even Darren Bailey knows that he's got to win over a few other non-MAGA creatures in order to win. Otherwise, he's going down just like he went down the last time.
Yeah.
Now, Darren Bailey, I ask you, as you preach bipartisanship and swear up and down that you're not going to take away abortion rights from women in the state of Illinois, let's see if Heidi believes him on that one. What is your attitude of what Donnie put on the White House wall? How is that example of the bipartisanship that you're preaching? How can any Republican in the state of Illinois look him or herself in a mirror and say, oh, yeah, I support this party? How can the Chicago Tribune editorial board, which wrote one of the dumbest editorials, editorial after really trying like to bend over backwards to justify the prosecution of the Broadview Six, how could they pretend as though there's any Democrat in the country who's this openly corrupt in the distortion of American history? I'm sitting here, I'm thinking in about a week or so, President Obama will open his Obama Center. The whole thing is dedicated to the Obamian concept, still, that he apparently still believes that we are not a blue America or a red America, we are a United States of America. This is the message that Obama preached in 2004. I mean, he gave that famous speech at the Democratic National Convention, which he essentially rode into office, was elected twice. We have gone so far from that. We are so far removed from that. When I read this garbage on the wall of the White House, it could just say, all you got to do, guys, I've been to City Hall. They have pictures of every mayor. Somehow or other, the new mayor can refrains, him or herself. They managed to get through 4 years in office without denigrating their predecessor. They just say, if it's a Mayor Johnson, it just says, Mayor Lori Lightfoot. If it's Mayor Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Rahm Emanuel, if it's Mayor Rahm Emanuel, Mayor Richard M. Daley, and so on and so forth. We have sunk so low, in my humble opinion, as a political culture under the Donald Trump era. And I begin this conversation with Heidi, who's got good instincts, a good sense of how people in her area will vote. Still, after all these years, Heidi, I still think that people are better than that. And they will reject this. And I know you're thinking, Ben, you were so naive. Anyway, Heidi, I open with that. First, welcome back. Let's hope the storms don't knock out your power.
I have this fabulous view in my new studio, which is actually a walk-in closet. I took that out of Dennis's playbook, but my window faces west, which is great for when I'm writing. You know, I love having the window, but yeah, the storms are real bad.
Yeah, real bad.
So, and it's okay. We cut our hay and put it away. It needs to rain a lot for it to grow back again.
That's the bright side.
That's how I look at it. Yeah.
So am I incredibly naive to think that that Darren Bailey and Republicans will reject this rhetoric of Donald Trump that he put on the wall of the People's House?
Well, the thing with all the people who love Donald Trump, and I have to say, in the really little red town that I live in or lived adjacent to, there is not one Trump flag lining the main drag anymore, where there used to be a lot of them then. You know, you'd go down there, it would be like every sixth house had some kind of Trump flag up, right? And now they're all gone. All of them are gone. Even the Don't Tread on Me ones are gone, or the Lone Pine ones are gone. So that's really weird. Really, really, really weird. But I still think to myself, when they step in that voting box, what are they going to do? You know, the thing is we still have Pritzker sucks signs out in our area, right? And I always want, every time I see those, in fact, one guy rolled up and he had that it's an old bumper sticker on its very old truck, and he wanted to buy some eggs for me. And I said, so please tell me how Pritzker sucks, because I really need to know. And it went back to the mask mandate. And I said, that was kind of a worldwide thing where most, well, Florida didn't do it. I said, well, that was your opportunity to move to Florida. You didn't take it. And I always tell people when they have that attitude, hey, the door swings open. Illinois will let you out. And I'll even come over with some of my friends, help you pack your boxes, and don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. So go be a part of Mississippi, please. We don't need you here.
Well, I could just tell you this. I think your friend selling the eggs is also guilty of rewriting a little history, because I'll put it to you this way. Dennis and I I've made, this is one of my favorite little anecdotes. When we used to record our show out of the studio in the West Loop, we would often take the train together home, and he would this is before the pandemic, ladies and gentlemen. This is when the first year of J.B. Pritzker's tenure. And so there were no masks. So we nobody even knew what COVID was. And he would show me on his phone, he would tell me, Ben, you live in a bubble. You live in Chicago. And he would show me the Facebook postings from downstate from his friends, his Facebook friends. And they were of the Pritzker sucks ilk. Okay. And some of them were even more. I'm trying to do a family show here.
And I keep asking them why, and they'll tell me all about the tax rates. And I'll tell them, my son's an economist, and he can tell you to the penny why he works in Iowa and lives in Illinois. And I can't repeat that for you right now, but he says it costs more to live in Iowa. And it has a lot to do with their public school system has been defunded. So if you have children and you live in Iowa, you're either in some of the few remaining public schools, or you're paying tuition, which you get like a reimbursement for, but it doesn't cost, because if you live rural like me, you're driving every day. There's no bus service anymore. So Iowa claims to have saved all this money, but you're raising a whole lot of stupid people, right? I mean, I look at that and I think the guy I ran against the last 2 times has a Christian school in Yorkville. They don't teach evidence-based science or history or math beyond a certain point. Number one, they don't have to use certified teachers, right? So you're only teaching to the ability of the person teaching and to the ideology of that person teaching. And since Illinois doesn't demand or has a light demand on test scores for them, they get out of high school or grade school, of course they're going to have to go to the Christian high school because they're not qualified to go to a public school in Illinois, and then they have to try to figure out how to make their way after that. It's astonishing to me that we don't say, you have to be able to name, all 50 states and the capitals, and you have to be able to have a literate version, an accurate version of history. Well, then they'll debate you on what accurate history is. And it's stunning to me. It always brings me back to the conversation I had at Jewel and Morris when it was 20 below, when the woman wanted to let me know that she only likes that when we live in a republic when Republicans are running the country, and she doesn't want to live in a democracy when Democrats are running the country. And it blew my mind so badly, it still hurts. I'm like, and this is somebody who probably went to public school, but has since been, I don't know, Ben. I don't know what's gone on with, if we're trying to be deliberately stupid or a certain section of society is, it blows my mind. I have friends of mine that were here from France, and their history was thousands of years. And when they talk, it's, they're talking about things that happened in the Middle Ages and even before. And, I try to, we're just a very young country to them, and they don't know how to handle our stupidity, our version of stupid. In fact, they reminded me what happened to to Marie Antoinette and that ilk, because that's how they compared what we're going through right now in this country, with all the billionaires we have. So they're like, you need a guillotine. And I can't say it as eloquently as they do. And I don't know. Yes.
So you have Pritzker sucks signs up, but
Yeah.
Trump flags are gone. Do you make draw any kind of conclusion out of that?
Well, yeah, because I know several of the people who had those flags up, and they are very impacted right now by what's happened with Medicare or with Medicaid and with SNAP. They're very impacted. And some of them were seniors, but they were also getting SNAP to pay for their food. So it's really, I have a dog that's having a heart attack over the storm right now. So I hope I don't know if you can hear him or not. He's like, woof, woof. So help me. There's thunder out here. Anyway, but so their signs are down because now they're maybe in their 60s and have been on SSDI for a while and using SNAP for a while. And all of that's gone. Now they have a work requirement. They can't buy soda anymore. There's all kinds of things that they are experiencing firsthand. Did they care when it was happening to brown people all around the nation before? Absolutely not. Did they care when it was happening to Black people and is happening to Black people right now with voting rights? Absolutely not. But take their Coca-Cola away, boy, we're going to have a Dr. Pepper. We're having a problem, So that's how I see them. It's now impacting them. Medicaid always has had its issues, but right now, especially in mental health and some specialties, and with our local hospital closing, it's become a dying zone out here because people can't get health care like they were able to even 3 years ago, and we were having problems before the Trump administration came in. Him cutting out funding for rural hospital systems means that we lose the hospital in Ottawa. They've cut services so far back. If you break your leg or have a stroke in Ottawa, they're going to fly you someplace else. You're going to end up in Peoria or Rockford or St. Louis or Bloomington, someplace far. And then you got to figure out how to get home from there. And then your follow-up appointments are also going to be hell and gone from here. So, and even with us, because we feed into the Morris hospital system, which is a really small community hospital, a lot of times they can't, there's so many people that have come in. And again, they're under a lot of pressure because of the rural hospital funding. They've got a little better endowment. But what happens with us is like my husband just finished up 50 treatments in New Lenox, which is an hour east of us, because they can't do that out here. This is what happens when you have cuts in Medicaid, which funds all of the little tiny hospitals out here. God help you if you have a stroke right now or have a horrible accident. You're going to have to be stabilized, and then they're going to life flight you. And a lot of times, we don't have a trauma center anywhere near here anymore. So if they can't get you stabilized, you're just a goner. And I have friends of mine that have been flown to far-flung areas of Illinois that literally have no way to get home unless you take their little minibus. I'm sorry, I laugh only because it's so ludicrous. I've just had a quintuple bypass and I've got to take the minibus home from St. Louis. Where do we live? We live in Illinois. We're less than an hour a little over an hour from Chicago. Let's try to do more of that. Let's try to have better healthcare out here. But I think that's why the flags are down. The people are feeling it on a bigger level. And as far as the Pritzker thing goes, you and I both know Darren Bailey hasn't got a snowball chance in hell, and the whole thing is going to ride on the data center issue. And is JB actually actively trying to bring them in, or isn't he? Which is the $1 million question for everybody in my area, because I'm out where they put those data centers. I'm out like in ground zero for data centers. So, he's going to have to answer some questions and be very, very, very direct about that, because the Republicans are coming for him on that issue, including the guy I ran against, who's all against data centers right now, which is killing his current opponent, who came out strong against data centers. So just watching that race makes my head hurt.
All right. This is one of the emerging issues we've talked about on the show. And I watch it with a mixture of incredulity and fascination. Because it's essentially a land use fight, and I've been writing about and following land use fights. Oh my God, Heidi, since I first started as a journalist, way back.
Right.
That's just a classic. And so generally what happens when people are upset by a proposal that's going to be in their backyard, they're mocked by folks who are not facing that proposal in their backyard as NIMBYs. This is something that the development class figured out a long time ago.
Right.
And they've effectively brainwashed Americans. You hear my good liberals in Chicago, like they sniff away at people who don't want something in their backyard, that the good liberals in Chicago would fight like hell if it was in their backyard. But they go, oh, they're NIMBYs. And then, they read the editorials in the Tribune and Craig's, et cetera, that just further reinforces their little north side liberal brain. And I'm like, well, it's interesting that essentially a NIMBY fight has effectively united MAGA and Democrats in opposition to these grotesque developments that are desperately needed by the AI industry to process its machinery, to keep the machinery going. We had State Senator Rachel Ventura on talking about this.
Love Rachel.
Yeah, she's awesome. And Pritzker, you're right. He was sort of like still living in the old world where any kind of groundbreaking was viewed as a triumph of economic development and capitalism. And no matter how much it would cost the locals, no matter how much opposition there was, this is the mindset of so many politicians, so many Democrats included. And now they got to do a 180, Heidi. I'm like, oh my God, the people don't want it.
No, so my sister lives up in Yorkville, which is 40 minutes north and east of me, which is in part of the territory I ran in when I ran for office. So I know the area really, 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 really well. They are putting giant data centers across on the west side of 47 from huge subdivisions. The noise alone, people can't sell their houses there right now. And we've had a housing shortage here in Illinois, but people who were getting, and I know this sounds low for Chicago, we're getting just under $500,000 for their houses now are, we're at like 265, and that because we don't know how this is going to impact it. Ground hasn't been broken on it. And the really huge issue with this too, Ben, is, we're a union family. My husband was IBEW for 32 years. We are a union family, but the unions see this as a huge, issue for jobs. Huge. We don't have enough tradespeople to do these jobs, right? We just don't. They see it as a huge boon to their union workforce, right? Which it is. But after they're built, 1 to 10 people can run these facilities. So those of us that, it's going to be a big boom, and then it's a bust on jobs. So you're going to bring all these people in. Number one, out here, I don't know where they're going to stay. In Yorkville, there's no affordable housing, So if you're coming in on the books to build in Yorkville, I don't know where you're staying, because there's no place to stay up there. And then the bust that happens afterwards is that if you put in affordable housing and all the restaurants and everything's gearing up for all of this, the ancillary employment issue is going to be huge. Afterwards, you've got 1 to 10 people sweeping the floors, I guess, if the Roombas aren't working. And in the meantime, all the surrounding subdivisions, you have a water issue, you have a sound issue, you have a drought issue, you have, what happens to this facility when it's obsolete issue. So I see this locally in my own hometown. They gave them $13 million to be able to put one in to the city itself, a poor, broke city. Of course, they took the money. Minooka, Illinois, they're building north of I-80 most of the people live south of I-80. So they might get some buffering in there, but then you're running right up against Plainfield. And Plainfield's like, hey, moratorium, no data centers, because it is driving down their property values in Plainfield. So, and that's where Rachel is, right in that area there, Ventura. But I don't understand why our state legislature, our governor, has not said, wait a minute, hold up. Let's find out what this is going to do. And I don't understand unions aren't going, look, we'll build these things, but we want to make sure that they're built, using mitigation measures so that they don't become a bad neighbor. And the thing is mitigation measures create more jobs. When you do it using mitigation and at the beginning of the project, you're going to create more engineering for sound. You're going to create more people for the water process and water usage for recycling. You're going to create more coolers, more IBEW jobs for being able to cool this thing. It would boom for them, a bigger boom for them, if they demanded the mitigations and stood with the people. And it's causing out here some angst against the unions because every meeting I go to, I know all those union bosses. When you run for office 3 times, boy, you get to know who everybody is. And you see them front and center at all of these data center meetings. It kind of makes me a little sad. I mean, come on, guys, stand with us. We are the people, and we are the people who work for you, with you, and support you all along. But you see this boom is bigger than the long-term impact, which is really very sad.
Yeah. That's just like now we're heading into human nature. And so like you give some guy, I'm going to give you $20, put it in your hand right now. And it may end up costing you $100, but I'm not going to talk about that. Here's that $20. They'll take $20.
Because it's their houses too. It's their school systems. It's things that will affect them. And the thing is I probably won't be walking this earth by the time people will have to mitigate the damage these data centers are going to do. That's going to be in 60, 80, 100 years or more. We're watching the Superfund site in Ottawa for something that happened 140 years ago, right? Finally getting cleaned up at taxpayer cost. We're paying for that.
Yeah.
And so what happens when these things are no longer top flight technology, no longer needed? Because we've seen this with other industries. There's a big boom and then there's a huge bust. Yeah. And you can talk about the oil sands. Out here, we've got the frac mining sand. We put in, LaSalle County put in huge investments into frac mining sand that was going to Kansas. And then Kansas is like, hey, we found it way closer, so we don't need you. So now we have huge amounts of infrastructure we paid for out here that will never be used or is rarely used or very lightly used now. So, just another big boom and then complete bust.
Wow. Well, I'm hoping that the opposition that crosses party lines, which is truly unprecedented in this Trump era.
Yes.
I'm hoping that this bipartisan opposition just forces Americans to reconsider how they go about the things they go about and how much they're bamboozled. I don't know. Let's go back to the opening about the captions under the portraits of the presidents. Okay, so by the way, there wasn't even a portrait. I should have mentioned this up higher. There wasn't even a portrait of Biden. It was just an auto pen. That's like they're trolling. It's like they've turned the White House into their own private little trolling post drop. But
we elected him twice, Ben. We get what we deserve. We elected him twice. Actually, didn't come to the polls. Elected him the second time. So
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into inflation. But one of the lines he made a point of mocking Biden for the new Green Deal. And I remember you coming on back in the O's or 2019, talking about the new Green Deal and how you had to reassure. Remember, this is so Heidi Henry. You had to reassure people in red areas that, like, for instance, moving away from coal industry would not mean they would lose their livelihood.
Right.
That there would be jobs to replace those jobs,
Right.
which was the whole thing of the new Green Deal. And that concept was so offensive to conservative America, which is so weird because conservative America feeds off of the public taxpayers so often in their own life, but they're offended when other people choose to get a little assistance, that they turn the new Green Deal into a bad word. And of course, the Dems, always scared, ran away from the issue.
They completely ran away from it. And even the Inflation Reduction Act, which wasn't any of the above. Well, I mean, inflation was reducing because we were coming out of the pandemic era, but which we're still technically in. And all the green energy deals that were done, under the Biden administration, myself, we have solar out here. And people all the time are bitching about their electric bills. Because we're getting slammed out here with electric costs, just like everybody else is. But we get updates that come to our phone to let us know it's going to be this much more if you run your dryer, your dishwasher, whatever. This is when it's going to cost you more. So don't do that. Do this overnight. I'm going to get up in the middle of the night and do laundry, apparently. But and I have solar. So people are like, well, you people that fell for solar. No, I fell for solar so I have zero bill each month, because I was paying $540 a month for electricity before, and now I'm paying $128 solar payment each month, which is the same amount I'll pay for the next, I got like 18 years left on my contract. To me, that's budgeting. We do budget billing through Amaron, which is what we have in Commonwealth Edison, which I think is Constellation Energy now. You do budget billing with them. So I look like I traded it for long-term budget billing. And, and we fill up our cars from the same sun that shines every day. What do you do at night? Well, we've pushed a ton back into like today's going to be bad because of the storms, but it was real sunny this morning. We've pushed so much into the grid, we get credits for that. And then we run off the credits until, and it works out. It really does. The sun does come up every day. I know that sounds like pseudoscience, but the sun does come up every day, damn it,
Yeah.
And we had to go to, my daughter graduated yet again from another school. My daughter, one of my children is a forever student, so she graduated from Western, and my son had his Chevy Bolt, and he had forgotten to plug it in. So we stopped, I don't know, somewhere on the way home at a place where he could fill it. In the meantime, I thought, well, I'm going to fill up the Buick, we're here. So my bill was like $70 to fill up my car. He fills his up for about $11, so, and we're both going the same distance. And, and where the charging station was at, where he was at, of course, there's solar panels over the top to offset the cost to the, for filling up his car. So we live with that every day. The fact that Trump can't understand that the sun comes up every day for free. Okay. So his comments on inflation, like he loves inflation, because the people at the top are making money. Most of us are really feeling the pinch, really, really feeling the pinch. And I see it, and now we've got the screwworm thing coming in. As somebody who has finished cattle, it's been a long time since I've done that. Wow, that's not something you want to mess with. That's going to be devastating to our beef industry. And the fact that imported beef could also have this screwworm issue, and that the USDA is underfunded. It's like, you asked me what we were going to talk about today. I'm like, man, my head is about to explode because I've been reading about screwworm management, and my daughter graduated with a degree in public health and starts yet another degree in public health after that. And boy, she's just losing her mind right now, I know too much, Ben. I know too much.
It can overwhelm you.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to Trump. I love inflation. Absolutely staggering comment from Donald Trump. And with Donald Trump definitely for the last couple of years, I never know which is the product of just a demented mind or a deranged mind or a deranged, demented mind. But he is the leader of our country. And he's got his agents running all the departments, and they begin every single cabinet meeting by paying homage to him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So whatever he says today, they will repeat. That's the game you have to play with Donnie. And so now I guess they're all going to repeat how they love inflation too, which is mind-boggling. I'm going to go back to 2024 and the Americans, come on, at least on this show, I'm not going to let you forget your history.
Yeah.
And in 2024, Donnie beat Kamala Harris. And the mantra repeated endlessly among my friends of the liberal persuasion is that Biden lost because of the price of eggs. I remember this. I remember many discussions and conversations with some of my friends, and I'm not going to embarrass them by naming them. And they would tell me, Ben, I heard it on NPR, and that it was the price of eggs that did Kamala Harris in, and people know what they're paying, and you can't fool them when it comes to what they pay. And I didn't believe them at the time. But I didn't want to get too much of an argument with them. And now fast forward, inflation is roaring. It's $70 to fill up that Buick.
Yes.
That's deep. That's wild. And first, Donnie said, no, the numbers aren't as high. He blamed the media. They're lying. And now he can't get out of that anymore. And so he says, it's all part of my greater strategy. I love inflation. No one even knows what that means. And I'm just wondering, hey, Darren Bailey, do you love inflation too? Mary Miller, how about you? Do you love inflation too? Mike Bost, do you love inflation? All you little MAGA types here in the state of Illinois, do you also love inflation? So I need to know, Heidi, is I love inflation a winning slogan to carry forward?
Well, in fact, we are an egg producer at our farm. We produce eggs all the, not me, but the chickens do. And our egg prices actually went up because the cost to produce a dozen eggs, which didn't go up during the egg hysteria. Because my feed prices were the same, but now my feed prices are up, packaging prices are up, everything is up. So we went up to $5 a dozen for free-range heritage eggs. So, and that's a lot, for my customers. I feel really bad, but I can't produce a dozen eggs. My hens can't produce a dozen eggs for the same price. So how is it going to fly out here? I try to shop at our little grocery store, which has 5 aisles. So 5 aisles, make your decisions, get out. And they are really struggling. In fact, the cashier told me, she goes, everybody comes in here and they want money for Booster Club, and they want money for the pancake dinner, and they want money or product for this and that. And then they go and shop at Walmart. Well, number one, I would never step foot in a Walmart. You couldn't make me do it. So, but it's not, oh my God. Yes, inflation is terrible and you cannot run on that. The only people who inflation benefits are the top 10% of the 1%. And those are the people that Donnie Trump hangs with. Darren Bailey doesn't. He thinks he's got money. He has nothing. That's the thing is Trump has convinced enough people that making, let's say, $500,000 a year puts you up in the same category with somebody like him, who used to be barely a millionaire. I mean, he really, until he got The Apprentice show, really was not doing well. Because his dad had to bail him out so many times. Remember how many times he bankrupted his businesses because he's got no business sense? Yeah. So inflation didn't work for him, and it's not working for the rest of us. the problem is that now he's just taking money from us to make up for his shortfall. And he's convinced people who make, well, I'll even go to $100,000 a year, that you're in the same echelon as Trump. And sometimes I talk about this with median incomes, which is $58,000 in my area. If somebody makes $100,000 a year, they're making way more than the median income. You're changing how you shop and how you do things. But when you're making $1 million a minute, like the people Trump hangs out with, they don't understand $100,000 a year. That's nothing. $500,000 a year. How do you get by on that? So, the thing is that, remember when Johnson was talking about convince the average poor white guy that, I don't remember, if you've got something, you're that much better than a black man. I can't remember the saying right now. Oh, doggone it. Anyway, but so that's what they've convinced him. If you're making this much more, you're fine.
Yeah.
He'll let the poor white man will let you pick his pockets, which is exactly what's happening. And I think the thing with the people in my area where they have been poor, I think I told you when I moved out here, having grown up in Glen Ellen, I came out here, I'm like, God, why don't people fight for what they pay taxes for? Glen Ellen was a very Republican area, but boy, they fought. You didn't want for anything at Glenbard South ever because it was provided for you, right? You had everything. You paid taxes so that you could have a great school. And they fought tooth and nail to have that standard of excellence. And out here, they're like, oh, we can't afford to have a high school anymore, so we're just going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
No, damn it, you fight for your right to exist. And I think that's that Trump mentality. It's like they think that they have it so much better, They got a double wide instead of a single wide. So,
well, that mentality has to really be strong.
Yes.
To overcome the cost of eggs, the cost of gas,
yes,
the escalating costs, and I never.
It's not a white.
Yeah, I never believed that was the driving force in 2024's election. It was, in my humble opinion, I still say this.
Because Kamala wasn't white and because she was female. So you had the bigots and the misogynists got together and decided not to vote. So I'm following this, and I'll ask you the question that my wife posed to me today. And that is, can James Tallarico win? And this is something I'm going to be thinking about a lot over the next few months heading into November election. So I know all my listeners know who he is, but just if you stragglers coming in for the first time, he's a Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate in Texas, running against Ken Paxton, who is both corrupt and insane at the same time, somehow or other. He's a perfect Donnie guy. So Texas has since the days of LBJ and the Civil Rights Act has gone from Democratic to Republican. Yeah.
And it is pretty much a guaranteed Republican seat every 6 years or every 4 years or so, or there's a Senate election, and the Democrats have hope. Well, if we have a certain type of candidate, like if we move away from the Bernie, we go dead center, we can win. We can win in Texas, and they always get excited about one charismatic candidate after another, and then they get disappointed at election. Tallarico is a very gifted speaker. He's a very thoughtful speaker. I think he's got a lot of talent. Yeah. He's heading straight down the middle of the road. But he's expresses a lot of compassion. He calls himself a compassionate Christian for people who are struggling. And Democrats are convinced that's what it's going to take to defeat Paxton. And I just curious what you think about this, Heidi Henry, as somebody who has once again campaigned in front of the type of voters who that Tallarico will have to win over. Your thoughts? Go ahead.
Man, so you're talking about kind of an average Joe, middle of the road, nice guy versus a criminal that's crazy. in Trump country, and they've already elected a criminal who's crazy, not once but twice. So I'm telling you, Ben, and Texas is going to do what Texas is going to do. I was just thinking the other day how much better off we'd be if we gave Texas back to Mexico. and I have a sibling that lives, in Texas, and tells me it's an unholy place for a Midwesterner, and I believe her. It kind of goes along with the whole MAGA thing, doesn't it? Ken Paxton, crazy white male misogynist criminal. I mean, isn't that the definition of MAGA? I mean, and to me, Tallarico is, well, he's white bread, he's just in the middle of the road. He's a well-spoken white bread guy. And do we need more of those? We need more street fighters. We don't need more compassionate, I understand that you're an asshole, but I'm still going to vote for your rights anyway. Texas does what Texas does best, and that is do everything in its power. And I think about their electrical grid, do everything in our power to make things more miserable for everybody who lives here. I think back when Ann Richards was running against W, and the whole thing was, do we have concealed carry? No. We have open carry for everyone, which is why W won, which is why we ended up with him as president. And I keep thinking, you're asking me to tell you Texas will do something sensible and good for good for themselves. I just, I met Beto O'Rourke just as he was going out of the race. It was right after the killings in his district. He was going out of the race for president. And he came out so strongly, not anti-weapon, but weapons of war being on the street, and for background checks. And of course, he got toasted and ended up having to drop out of the presidential race. And he's a really nice man. And I keep thinking about the passion he spoke with after people were murdered at I think, a Walmart. And it's sad that I can't remember exactly where, because we have so many of these. And he is the kind of person that would have fought for the betterment of Texas, right? For things to be better for all Texans, and really spoke from the heart. A heck of a nice guy. And he's nowhere now. His political career, I'm sure, is over, because the people of Texas could never stand up and do the right thing for Texas then. I think they've passed even more lenient gun laws since those killings. And do I think, will I send some money to James Tallarico? I'm sure I already have. Do I really hope that they'll do the right thing like Georgia has done? I really hope they do, because Texas has so much potential, and yet they keep doing stupid ass shit. Like, what is wrong with you? You have so much, but you keep over and over and over again doing the wrong thing and not providing for the people who live there. And I have lots of friends that live in Texas, in the horse world. It's a small world, and they moved to Texas because it's closer to most of the places where we show at. And then they tell me how much they hate living in Texas. It's the snakes, it's the water issue, it's huge bugs. It's the fact that in parts of Texas, nothing is green, it's desert, and they hate the politics, but they have to do that because that's where the business is. And I don't have a whole lot of faith in Texas. I just don't, Ben. I'm so sorry to say. They seem to be, they're masochists. Yeah. They just love to hurt themselves. And I have to read this because I found it while we were on here, is LBJ from Texas reported, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, he'll give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. That is MAGA. That's MAGA. He was describing why the base votes the way they do. That is the definition of MAGA. if the people in my little town that still support Donald Trump can look down at somebody because give them a reason, they have to buy generic instead, or they have to go to the food pantry instead of shopping. They feel superior. Give them a reason to feel superior. And I like James Tallarico. I hope he prevails, but like so many other times, Texas had the opportunity to do good things. They did not choose wisely.
That is a good riff, and yeah, a lot of truth in that riff. The whole concept of a nice guy being what it takes to win over Texans. Well, that'll be an interesting experiment down in Texas. I'm going to close with this. This could have done a whole show on this one. Bill Gates' testimony at Congress yesterday about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
And at some points, I just like all this stuff is so rich for comedy. Wish George Carlin was still with us, or Lenny Bruce, or Richard Pryor. Anyway, but so Bill Gates, who's one of the wealthiest men in the world, I'll repeat that just so you understand that, one of the wealthiest men in the world. He's worth hundreds of, tens of billions of dollars, and he has a Gates Foundation, which he is dedicated to eradicating diseases. So it's like got good intentions. So they were interrogating him, Congress was.
It's a tax loophole, but go on.
Yeah, it is a tax loophole. All foundation. If you're dependent on the handouts from good people, you got to realize the good people are getting tax handouts themselves.
Yes.
To give it out. So, but I live in a capitalist country, Heidi, and this is the prevailing view.
Right.
There's a movement right now in the state of Illinois to give wealthy investors tax breaks who donate money to charter school scholarships so they could defund public schools, undercut teachers' unions, and promote the notion that only private schools can educate kids. So that's happening right now in Illinois, and they'll get tax breaks for that. All right. Anyway, so Gates said he was introduced to Epstein through people involved in his professional and philanthropic work, and was drawn in by Epstein's claims that he could raise billions of dollars for global health initiatives. The relationship began in 2011, 3 years after Epstein's guilty plea in Florida, according to Justice Department files. Gates said he cut ties in 2014 after concluding Epstein could not deliver on those promises. I read this and I'm like, you're the world's richest man in the world. At the time, I believe you were. Maybe, Elon Musk has gone ahead of you now, but you're the world's richest man in the world. You have unlimited amounts of money. Why are you sucking up to Epstein to get more money? You got all the money in the world, and you only cut ties with him when you say, oh, he's not coming through? I mean, come on, help me out, rich people. You have so much money. What do you need more money for? Why are you sucking up to Epstein?
Yeah.
It just defies common sense and logic as to his explanation. Go ahead, Heidi, close out the show.
According to Melinda, his ex-wife, it had nothing to do with donations or raising money. And I believe her. I believe her absolutely. I believe the reason every single person visited that island was not with good intentions. And cutting ties with him afterwards was only because I think the feds were getting way too close. And I think he was worried he'd be caught up in it, which he is. We are 205 plus days, I think, now from when the files were supposed to be released, which they will never be released while Trump is alive and breathing. I am convinced. And I don't care who comes in next. They're not going to hold him accountable. They're not, because it's too deep on both sides. So my opinion with this whole thing with the Epstein files and Bill Gates dancing around and trying to clear himself, I think just dug it a little bit deeper. I mean, anyone watching that has any sympathy for the victims, who has any knowledge of the files. I have a friend of mine, because they redacted them through Microsoft Word, unredacted them and sent me them so I could read them unredacted. And I had literally had to stop reading them because I still am so appalled. How does this happen? This happens because very, very, very wealthy, empowered people chose to allow it to happen. And the fact that it still happens, it just happens on a different level, not on his island anymore. But there are still girls and women that are in boys and men that are still victimized and trafficked regularly. And that is the shame, the absolute shame of our Congress, of our Attorney General, of our process here in the United States, that we will do nothing to protect them after we give so much lip service to wanting to do that. Trying to watch him yesterday, I got through maybe an hour and 20 minutes of going, he's just in circles. He's just talking himself in circles. He's saying absolutely nothing, which was his goal, was to not incriminate himself, to talk, not plead the fifth, but just to talk in circles. It's to say enough words so we think that he answered questions, which he really didn't. I could not be more disappointed in my government, in people who still believe in Donald Trump, who still believe in MAGA, and even the QAnon, who have seen and it has been proven that this is a problem, and they're still going to cling on to the fact that, he's Trump. It's going to be okay. We got to fight for Trump. One of these days we're going to have to talk about what's going on really under the East Wing, where the ballroom is going to go, because we'll never get him out of his Hitler-style bunker. Yeah. I don't know if they're putting a golf course in there for him. So
he's going to put a golf course.
So sorry.
Well, leave me laughing at the golf course in the bunker. Maybe miniature golf course in the bunker. Although that would have a windmill in it probably, so can't have that. All right, Heidi, thank you so much. And we got through this without the storm crashing us, so that's all good news.
Now it's on his way to Dennis.
Yes, shout out to Dr. D. And he's dealing with, he has no power. The tree went through the power lines outside his house, so he's down. So shout out to all my friends in Chicago who are waiting for the power to come back on, and wishing for the best for you. All right. Thank you, Heidi. I also want to thank producer Chris. He does an outstanding job. And I know Heidi agrees when they say, hey, producer Chris, give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. Peace and love, everybody.
Remember, you can download episodes of The Ben Joravsky Show wherever you download podcasts. Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show. Joravv as in victory, SKY. Subscribe. Give us a review. But remember the rule, 5 stars only. Go find The Ben Joravsky Show wherever you download podcasts. But also get this, Ben actually bought a website, and it's actually pretty awesome. It's thebenjoravskyshow.com. Go find it right now, bookmark it immediately, because not only can you find previous Ben Joravsky Show episodes, thebenjoravskyshow.com is also the new home for Ben Joravsky columns. You may have noticed something's missing in your Chicago Reader these days. Where'd the Ben Joravsky columns go? They're over at thebenjoravskyshow.com. Go read his latest column. He's been posting his columns at thebenjoravskyshow.com for a while now. So after you read the latest column, go check out the rest. There's tons more on the site. There's also the Benny J Book Club. What's that, you ask? It's a book club. Ben talks about the latest books he read. Was it a good book? Was it a bad book? Find out at thebenjoravskyshow.com. And finally, The Ben Joravsky Show is now an independently funded podcast. That's right. Ben's footing the bill. We love what we do, and we want to keep bringing you content like this. We'd be flattered even if you consider donating to The Ben Joravsky Show. This operation now runs off the hard work of independent podcast producers who kindly give their time to keep this operation going. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Again, it's thebenjoravskyshow.com. Joravv as in victory, SKY. Read the columns, join the book club, and find The Ben Joravsky Show and subscribe wherever you download podcasts.